Okay, hey everyone. I am here, Sharon Sheldon with Sarah Arrow, and we have a few things we're going to talk with you about today and answer any questions. So this is officially a Q&A, but I know I didn't give you a lot of notice for it, so a lot of people will be watching on the replay. That's fine. Still add your questions underneath in the comments so that we can answer them. All right. And the reason we came on today is that there's something ending today that I want to make sure you see. It's the bonus that comes with our current launch that we've been doing as this early bird bonus, a ready to go challenge. This is something we've done for the last few months and has been really, really popular because it gives you everything you need to actually run your own challenge. And challenges are just huge now. I mean, they've always been popular, but as part of your marketing, not just engagement, but marketing, they're now been proving more and more. I hear a lot of thought leaders, influencers, whatever you want to call them, talking about how effective it is for getting leads, engaging their audience, and selling. So what we do in these bonus challenges is give you the step-by-step to walk through with emails that you can use as live stream content and worksheets and stuff. And they're based on the lead generation report, the lead magnet in the bigger course, because it's meant to sell the course. So you could use it just to engage your audience, but the last 2 emails in it are to promote the course itself. So that's mainly what we're going to talk about today is that course, How to Attract Free Publicity. But challenges first and running challenges. Sarah, can you just share some of your experience and your tips on the power of challenges and actually running them, using this stuff, using the content?
Sure, I can. Way back in the dark ages when the internet was the wild, wild west, and a pop-up wasn't just somebody asking for your email address, it was lots of little grey boxes trying to download things, and it was chaos. I started to blog for my husband's transport business because it was either blogging or podcasting, and I realised podcasting was talking to people, and even though I didn't have brilliant writing skills, I found it much easier to write than to actually talk to people. So I became very interested in blogging, but I found I couldn't get the advice that I needed because people who blogged tend to be parents, mummy bloggers, people with hobbies, and big corporations. For small business owners, blogging was encouraged, but nobody could give examples of good small business owners blogging. So I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to find some other people who want to blog and do it every day with them for a period of time, because the only way you get better at something is to flex your muscles to do it for a period of time. And whether that period of time is 7 days, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 90 days, ultimately the length of time is irrelevant so long as you show up and do what you're meant to do. So I spoke to a few people, including the lovely Angela Boothroyd, and you may have seen her about in the Content Sparks community, and also another chap called Charles Conway. He's not in the Content Sparks community, and some other people. And I said, do you fancy blogging every day for a month? I don't know where a month came from. It was just in my head, okay? And to my surprise, they said, sure, why not? So we jumped on a site and blogged every day for 30 days. And we got a tremendous amount of traffic. We got a tremendous amount of leads. And somebody said to me, you're really good at this. You need to teach this. So I did. For the next 3 years, I taught it from 2007 to 2010 to my one-to-one clients. And I charged $3,000, and I would spend 30 days with a client showing them how to blog 30 consecutive days. And that taught them all of the basis. And then somebody else said to me, do I have to do this with you? I'm like, no, you don't have to. And then could you put it in an email and just send it to me and I'll do it myself? I said, sure. And they said, how much is that? I said, oh, I'll just send it to you. And before I know it, it has become my biggest lead magnet. Over 750,000 people have been through the blogging challenge. It's known as the 30-day blogging challenge because that's got a much nicer ring than the 1 month blogging challenge. It started on BT Trade Space. It moved to LinkedIn. It's been one-to-one. It's been something that I give away. It's something that I've sold 20,000 books per year for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's something that people opt in, do, leave. I've had Google Plus communities. It's currently on Facebook. When Facebook shows signs of going down, it will materialize on a new platform. And the thing about a challenge is it is so flexible, as you've just heard. It started on BT Trade Space. It's been delivered one-to-one. It's delivered via email. It's delivered via books. And even Sharon's 10-day online course challenge, you can get that via opt-in, but you can also get it via book, and soon you will be able to get it via video. So it comes in so many different formats and it's so flexible. So if you've got a challenge and you've got some people, you don't need a lot of people. You only need a minimum of 10. When I did my very first blogging challenge, I started off with, I think, about 8 of us. And we did brilliantly. And the results were really incredible for just 8 small business owners. And I would say lots of people think, oh, a challenge has to be something that's really scary. Yeah, it has to be a challenge, right? You can't just say, you know, write your name at the top of a blog post, then press publish. It has to be so you learn, but by the same token, you learn in increments. So your day 1 of the PR challenge, I'm just going to open that up because it is brilliant. And where are you, challenge?
I mean, I have to add it to the screen.
Yeah, I think you might have to, because quite often mine doesn't work when I try to share via a Word document.
All right, you keep talking. I'll go look for
Right,
it.
I'll keep talking. Right, so Sharon gives you the guidelines for running the challenge, yeah? And in your day 1, you talk to your audience and you get them to clarify what makes them unique. What's their position? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's really high level. But actually, it's one of those basic things. You need to know where you are in the market. You need to know your position. And if somebody is telling you they've been in business a year plus, but then telling you they don't know their position, they've not got a marketing plan or anything else behind them. So not only do you get to talk to them about publicity, you get to sell them a marketing plan as well as lots of other things. So it can be really eye-opening to talk to your audience to find out what they're lacking. And it can simply be not knowing what makes them unique. So you can give some really good value right there and right then, just getting somebody to talk about where they are in their business and the benefits that they make to their customers' lives, the improvements they can feel and they can see. And once they start identifying them, that becomes the core behind your publicity. And it's the reason that people want to write about you. When I started my site, because I'm not known just for the blogging challenge, I started a site called Birds on the Blog. And Birds on the Blog were about ordinary women in business, because we all read about the high flyers, but what about us ordinary women in business that don't have a team of nannies and don't have people coming round to wash our cars? You know, we do our school runs, we push our kids out the door, we forget their gloves, we forget their hats. What about us ordinary people? And that became our angle, that it was for ordinary business women who didn't have big teams, who weren't particularly high flyers in any sense of the word, but were just normal women running a business. And loads of women identified with that because they struggle to identify with being a high flyer. So it doesn't have to be something really complex. It doesn't have to be something really big or something that's really out of this world. It can be a simple thing as being the polar opposite of what everything else is out there. And that's what our angle was on Birds on the Blog. We were simply ordinary businesswomen sharing our stories. Mm-hmm. So when you clarify where somebody is, their position, their message, just talking about that and getting them to talk about that is really, really beneficial. And you do that in the first day of your challenge. So you give really incredible value up front. Do you want to share screens? Is that up yet?
Yep, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it right there. Here, I can make it full screen because it's hard to see. What do you want to show? Because I can show one page.
If you've never run a challenge before, you will see that there's some guidelines for you. And then you can see there's a table of contents giving you each day of the email. And day one is exactly as what we just said. It's about clarifying the message.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'll go back up. Yeah.
And
actually, there's some big picture stuff first. And this is actually really good in the beginning because it talks about why publicity is important. And this is perfect for a little intro live stream is the basis for your script and to welcome people in. Also, some of the other instructions in here. Mm-hmm. Basically, that first bit is really good for introducing and welcoming people. And then you add your own content to give them, housekeeping stuff, when they're going to find where they're going to find their information. It's great in a Facebook group because you can live stream there and also post the information there and send an email with the information because each one has some next steps, today's actions at the end.
Yep, and they're good.
Worksheets in here too. This is just the folder. Let me just show. Because you always want to give people something, a worksheet, right? Otherwise,
and the good thing about the worksheet is you can put the link to your sales page in it. So people get used to the fact that you're a business, because sometimes when they do a free challenge, at the end of it, when you start talking about your course and all of that, they can forget that you're a business owner and they can forget you're a business. So you can have your branding elements on your worksheets. You can even add in little testimonials if you have some, and you can even add in links to other things on social media. So the worksheets are really, really handy. But it also increases the touch points for marketing, because I think it's something like 17 to 20 touch points you now need, whereas once upon a time it was 7. So just by handing them a worksheet and getting them to download it and take action, you're increasing the connection with your audience.
Yep. I didn't know that number.
Yeah, it's gone up. Yeah, it used to be 7. And this is what's so great about having a Blaze pack is you get the opt-in, you get the emails, you get the challenge. So you're all increasing those touch points. And then when they purchase, you get all the follow-up. So you're continuing to nurture and build that relationship and make it something that's really good for people, that they feel loved and wanted. Because the last thing we want is to sell a program where we take their money and then they never hear from us again.
And also what we were saying before about the repetition. I was just watching something, because that's a topic I talk about all the time, because people worry about overlap between different courses. And for instance, in this course, in the publicity one of the first things you do is, again, clarify your message and who you are and stuff. And we do that all the time. You have to keep doing that over and over, because not only is that part of learning, the repetition, but things change. So you have to keep reminding yourself. So don't think that, okay, if you talked about clarifying your message 2 months ago in another course, or even, 3 months or a year ago, you should be doing it regularly, those sorts of things. So always over and over. And that starts even within a program like this. You're doing certain things in the beginning in this little challenge or lead magnet, and then you go into more depth, repeat it again in the course, get it ingrained, go through it again, repeat it later again, repeat it again in the next course. So that kind of stuff is really, really important. So repeating your message.
Yeah, so the challenge is a really good thing to have, because not only do you refresh people and get them to think about it, you're giving them massive value up front, you're repeating it so the message sinks in, because none of us ever look at something and get it straight away. We normally have to go back to it 2 or 3 times. I mean, if you think about when you learned the times table as a child, you'd sit there and 1 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and you'd say it, repeat it by rote, and you may not understand what 2 and 4 and 6 are, but that's how you learn it. And the other one, in England, we have this proverb, 30 days had September, April, June and November. Do you have that one?
Yeah.
Right. So I'll be sitting there doing some calendar and it'll be May and I'm like, 30 days of September, April, June. Right, just trying to, so I learned that by rote at school, and I'm still using it 40 years later because I can't remember whether May has 30 or 31 days.
We had it with your knuckles, where you put your hands together, your knuckles, and the knuckles are 31 and the dips are 30, except for February. Try it.
Oh.
We're getting
knuckles
off topic. What was I going to say? Yeah, it threw me off again. So and repetition when it comes to the challenge, you also want to be repeating the challenge, and you'll notice that people go through it multiple times.
Oh, yes.
You learn a little more. Some people don't only do part of it. That's okay. It's okay to not complete it, because then they go through it again. You adjust things, you get some feedback. So while we're giving you something that's ready to go, just remember that you're going to want to change it and see what works for your audience. None of the stuff, when it comes to this brandable content, it's not stuff that's set in stone. Quite the opposite. It's your starting point. And that's one of the things with that is, and this is one of the questions that came in, was whether you can teach it if you haven't done it before. And this is really important, because some people do try to get a course because they're interested in the topic and think they're just going to teach it. Oh, here we go, ready to go course. I need a course. I'm going to get online and teach it. You shouldn't be doing that with something you don't know. What you should do instead is get it and go through it and implement it yourself. So something like the publicity one, you get it, you go through the steps of, clarifying your message and figuring out what kind of journalists or press or influencers would share your audience, where their audience would be interested in you. Look at what kind of hooks and stories you can come up with, newsworthy stories. Do all of that and see the results. Then you've got all that great material to be teaching someone else, because most people have not done this before. And you shouldn't be put off because you haven't done it, because you're going to see all the results, and then you're going to help people who have never done it before. They're brand new. And this is for everyone. This is not just something that big companies do. And that was one of the other questions, actually, that I want to make sure we talk about, which is that this is for every audience. One question was, well, my audience is newbies. They're just starting out. They, what kind of stuff? Why would anyone want to talk about them? Why would anyone want to talk about me? I'm not that big. I don't have anything to talk about. So Sarah's husband, Kevin, her partner in crime there, is going to talk about that topic and come on.
Yep, Kevin, come round.
He's not in the
He's not in the chat. No, he's going to come round on.
Okay, so he's going to trade off because he's going to talk about his experience with his other business and how he got publicity even as a small business. All right. So Kevin's just swapping with Sarah. We're doing the music chairs here.
Hello.
And here is Kevin. So if you guys haven't met Kevin or seen him before, he and Sarah work together. I don't know how you guys do it. There is no way in how that I would work with my husband, be in the same house, be in the same room all day long. I want him out. But, so, I'm impressed. But go ahead and talk to me about and share with everyone how you did your process of getting publicity when you were in your other business starting out.
Back in 2002, we launched a transport business, and I think this is really where we had a big advantage over most people. Was we knew exactly who we were, we knew exactly what we offered that was unique, and we just had to go out and market it, which sounds easy, but the first bit's quite difficult for most people. So we knew that we had a same-day dedicated courier company. We knew our rates were the most expensive in the UK purposely. But we also knew that our unique point was that we were one of the few transport companies that had an ethical green policy before anybody else, right? So transport companies were known for having dirty diesel vehicles, puffing smoke out. They're a nightmare. And along come us and we go, hang on, we're going to turn this on its head and we're going to be known as Essex-based, and we're going to be the green transport company. So it just started in the news. It was becoming quite a popular topic, carbon emissions. In the UK, we had the London emission zone, the low emission zone, as in you had to have a certain amount, it had to be tested on the car tests. You couldn't go in, or you had to pay massive fines to go in, all that type of stuff. So it was quite a hot topic in the news. So we decided, well, we need to jump on this. Now, remember back in 2004-ish, things were quite different on the internet then, and I think if we were in the same position there, we could take much more advantage of it than we did then. But what we did was, it was quite simple, and the route that we took was we were going to go and use radio to get ourselves known locally, because getting on local radio stations is actually quite easy, because most people want to go for the nationals. I want to go for the BBC England against BBC Essex, which is a sub radio station. So the listenership on that would probably be 40,000-50,000 people. So still pretty reasonable, So we'd listen out and we'd go on to those types of radio shows and listen out for anything that was related to the environment, anything related to transport, anything related to green transport, transport policies, basically anything that we could spin into, I've got a green courier company, we were on it. And initially it was a case of, because we didn't know any better, nobody said this is what you've got to do. So initially it was just a case of sitting there, having the radio on, and they're like, oh, they're going to be talking about this in 10 minutes. Right, pick the phone up. That's because they're always putting their number out. We're going to ring them up and we're going to chance it. And the more I did it, the more cheeky I got, because initially I'd be all very nervous and I'd be letting them lead the conversation. And after a couple of times, I'd be like, and by the way, if you've got a company in Essex and you need dedicated transport, give us a call. Like haulage. And we'd get it in at the end. So it's a little bit cheeky, but they loved us. And what happens with journalists is they like credible sources of information for certain topics. So if they know a piece is coming up in the next day or two that is going to be on transport, they would then ring us up. And we actually had, I don't know if you have it in the US, but they send little vans around with microphone people and all of that for the radio, where they'll come to you so you can be on the radio rather than just ring in.
Really? No, I don't know. I've never been on the radio.
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. And so they'd ring us up and go, right, we're doing this tomorrow. We'll have a van with you at 10 o'clock in the morning. Are you available? And we're like, yeah, we'll be there, no problem. And they come to us. It was great. So we got on the list with all of these journalists for anything transport related. And what happened was people started to recognise our name. Not that they could quite place where, but it was becoming a familiar thing. Because remember, in our industry, in transport, every transport office has a radio on. Every warehouse has a radio on. They're all listening to it in their vans. So in our world, we were getting quite well known. Now, what we didn't do, which we should have done, was like you can quite easily nowadays, is gone, as heard on BBC Essex with sound clips and all of that. We didn't take full advantage of what we did on the radio. It sort of was a been gone, move on to the next one, and we were really in a position of hoping the right people heard at the right time. Now I think you can actually do it a lot better, because you can take audio recordings. You can actually ask them for audio recordings, or you can listen to it when it's replayed. If you go onto somewhere like, we've got a London show called LBC, which is Talk Radio. You can go on there, listen to past shows, and take copies of the recordings on there. They'll let you do that.
Wow.
So you can actually have all of that put together from a publicity point of view of, look, we're a green company and we've been on this show, that radio over the last year. And you can have a whole list of them, which not only does it promote you really well, but it boosts your credibility.
Yep.
Because if an organisation like the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is massive in the UK, has interviewed you on the radio and they think you're the expert, well, guess what? You're the expert. It's as simple as that. So
check that out. You're commenting while you're talking.
That's why you need a publicity plan, so you don't miss out. And Sarah's right. And as I was listening before I came on, it was really interesting, because I think when you said, on some of your programs, you go back over stuff. I think you go back over stuff with purpose for each program. So, for example, with the publicity stuff, we needed to know we was focusing on one particular thing. Of course, we did different types of niches within transport, because we did car parts, we did computer parts and all of that. But our one thing that we wanted publicity for, which overarching we wanted to be known for, was the small green company. Yeah. The small green transport. That was it.
Focused, yeah.
It was really specific. Now, of course, if you go off and do other programs, like we all know you've got, that necessarily wouldn't be that specific focus for that. Yeah. But for publicity, that's what we wanted. And that's what we got. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, we went off and we got environmental business awards. Transport company had never got one before. We were the first one in the UK to get that. So all of that, I think, helped build that reputation up. So it wasn't always for us about getting the direct customer ringing us. It was about the whole thing, and the credibility that we got for it was huge.
Would that work, or how would that work for someone in another type of business? Like one of our customers asked about podcasters. She works with podcasters. How could that kind of approach, or that kind of, trying to get publicity, how would it work for someone?
Well, it depends on what they podcast about. Yeah. So I think you can use it for almost anything based on what you do. So, for example, if you're a podcaster and you talk about family relationships, for example, right, and that's what your podcast is about, that's how you earn your living, you would go off and you would decide, I want to be on every radio show that has anything with a family dynamic on it, right? And you would source those shows out. There are specific presenters that will specialize in those types of conversations. Yeah. And you would go off and you'd want to get involved in that conversation.
Yep. So the point is, it's not about just local businesses and getting, and local newspaper and local radio. There's all sorts of opportunities out there, and it's all being really focused about your niche and your message and who you're trying to serve. Yeah,
but it's not about your mechanism. For us, it wasn't about delivering stuff. Even though, like with the podcaster, they're a podcaster. For us, we were a delivery company, but it wasn't about delivering. It was about what are we that is different. Well, we were a green transport. What's different about that podcaster? They deal with family issues. That's what their podcast is about. Or they deal with, I don't know, business insurance, or it could be anything. So it's really the tighter specific topic, because throughout any type of publicity, you're going to have to rely a little bit on what's happening in the world, right? Because that's part of it. And the more something comes up, then the more it will get talked about. So, for example, if at the moment in the UK we've got a general election going on and it's stressy and all that stuff's happening. Now, if I was a stress management coach, I would be all over it. I would be the one that's going in and going, right, let's positivity, mindset coaching, stress management. I'd be in there having every conversation, irrespective of the outcome of the political blah, blah, blah. This is how we can approach it. Yeah, I'd be on all those conversations doing it. So you can look at, you have to be creative with the way that you look at the opportunities within the news.
Yep.
And what often happens is a news story isn't an individual story, in my experience. It's never a, this has happened, we're never going to talk about it ever again. They like to dissect it over a small period of time. So it's so I'll take a tragic incident, for example, where we had the London Bridge terrorist attack just last week. So that happened on day one. Day two, they're starting to analyse in the news. How did this happen? Day three, who was involved? Day four, you know. So my point is that with any type of publicity, it's not a singular event. You don't have to sit there listening like I was on the radio for that opportunity at that second. Sometimes if you see something that's come up in the news and you think, you know what, I could get a spin on this, then you go and source your opportunity. Or if you've got a list of journos or anything like that on Twitter or wherever you may find them, and I know your thing goes through some of that, you know, going out and reaching out to them. Look, this has just happened. Are you covering this story? I can really be helpful to talk about it from this point of view.
Yeah. That was one of the things that somebody said on the previous Facebook Live when we were just launching this publicity course. She keeps a list of journalists in Twitter who she can always go to and approach, who are interested, and build those relationships. And yeah, you see that all the time. You see something happen, and then somebody's chiming in the next day and giving their viewpoint. But journalists are always looking for that, looking for new angles to talk about, because they need stories all the time. And it's not just journalists, it's anyone who's delivering content, like the podcasters themselves.
Yep.
Or somebody doing webinars need content and ideas all the time. So if you can approach, build a relationship and say, hey, I can talk about, email marketing from this angle, something unique and different. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that's the point of going through and helping people figure out those hooks and ideas to make something newsworthy, even if you're brand new or small, because what's something to talk about that's interesting.
But it could be your very first time. If you know your thing, if you know what you do really well and how you can adapt that to go into that situation, not force something that doesn't fit, because that just won't work. But something that could be that they've not seen. What they don't want is vanilla. They don't want boring, because they've got an audience to keep entertained. So they want someone with a strong view. Yeah, and that may not, often it's opposing views. You see it all the time where you've got this one against that one and they pit them against each other. Now, that isn't necessarily always the right thing, but what they do want is people that have views, opinions, strong opinions, and that are willing to say, this is why I believe this. This is why I do this. This is what, rather than, well, yeah, you've got a point, and yeah, maybe I'll change my mind next week, and then they're going to go, well, what are you doing? They're not interested in that. And when they keep you as a credible source, I know that all of these people that look for this, like we do, Sarah and I, we have a list of people. And most people that have been around for more than 10 seconds on the internet will have or start to collect a list of people. And that could be experts in whatever. And that's so when we go out and, you know, you go on Facebook, I'm looking for so-and-so who can help me with this, who can advise me on that. You know, journalists are the same. They have a list of people that they'll go, right, that's the transport dude, that's the financial dude, that, you know, and all of that. So when something comes up, they haven't got to go and ask on Twitter. They just go, right, I know these people, they're on my call list. I'm going to ring them. If they don't answer in 3 calls, I'll move on to the next one. That's generally how fast they move. If you ain't answered in 3 rings, they're off and they're on to the next one. You know, so
call anymore. Do they actually get on the phone? I understand.
I don't know, because we've been really slack on our on our publicity for this type of thing. And it's interesting, when Sarah said she was coming on to talk with you about this, I said, well, what are we doing in our marketing business for this? Because we nailed it in the transport business. And she's like, good point. So we'll be going through this program, I can guarantee you, ourselves, because I have an absolute belief it's part of what you need to do to stand out.
Yeah, and it's something. I mean, I know for me, and I'm sure a lot of our customers' audience feel the same way, that it's something that's uncomfortable. You know, something you're afraid of actually approaching someone to get them to talk about you. I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to ask people for stuff. So it's something you just have to get over. And if you feel confident that you have a good story, good angle, like you said, that you feel passionate about and have a strong opinion about, then why not? You know, we're planning to do guest expert stuff, and I don't have no idea who we're going to have come on. I think Sarah has ideas of who's going to come on. But that's the kind of thing where we need to get experts in. And if people approach us with really good ideas, then we might bring them on and have them talk. So I think
flip that on its head. Yeah. These people need you to approach them.
Yeah.
Right. They're waiting for you to approach them, because they've got to run these stories. They've got to get this information out there. They need people to step forward and say, look, I can give you some information on this. I can help you with this. This isn't about what you get from it. It's about you helping them.
Right.
Yeah. And the byproduct is you get the publicity.
Yep.
Yeah. It's as simple as that. So approaching them should be the easiest thing in the world. If you're genuine in the way that you can actually help them what they're looking for, then it should be the easiest conversation in the world. And if they say thanks, but not this time, because they're never rude, they'll just say thanks, but not this time. I've got someone, or we're not running that story now, or whatever. That's fine. You just move on. It's never a personal thing. It's just a situational thing, as in it's not right for them right then. But then you just go on to the next one, and you go, okay, you know, that's cool. It's a bit like sending your emails out. You know, you don't get an email back from everyone you send an email to saying, oh, thanks, that was so lovely, you sent me an email. God, we'd have 20,000 emails every time we send an email out. You know, but if you know that what you're giving them is really great stuff and that's what they're after, you know, you can do that really comfortably.
Yeah.
You know, and without any fear of anything. And, you know, if someone says unsubscribe, that's fine, because it's not right for them right now.
Yeah. No,
that's all we have to do.
We're always coming back to the whole mindset thing. And that's part of it with this course as well. You got to get your mindset around the fact that it's not just about you asking or trying to get publicity. It's about also helping the people who would be talking about you, and then having a plan in place for making sure you benefit from that publicity. And that's, you know, the messaging and stuff. So yeah, that was really helpful.
Good.
Really helpful. Thank you.
Would you like me to replace yourself with Sarah now?
Sure.
Come in?
We can kind of sign off, and
okay, cool.
We've been going for a while. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. So I'm not going to keep you guys that much longer. I was trying to keep this to half an hour, but Kevin had so much great stuff to share, and Sarah, that I didn't want to go off. So I just want to make sure now that there are any questions, I know, again, a lot of people are watching this in a replay afterwards, and you put your questions down, but I just want to remind you that that bonus challenge on the publicity course is going away today. And actually, I've got this cool little new feature on StreamYard. Look at this. Awesome. They just introduced the ticker tape. StreamYard that I'm using for the Facebook Live, which I think works way better than anything else. I went and did a Facebook Live directly the other day, and it just didn't work as well at all. So that's our little thing that's going away today. And this is where to get it, the course on free publicity. So it's contentsparks.com/free publicity, all one word. And Sarah, do you want to finish off with anything else on that topic? I don't think I have any other questions. There's screenshots and sneak peek video and all that stuff on the sales page that shows you everything that you get.
I think the main thing with it is if you get it and you do it yourself, you're able to say and use your own business as the examples in the content. And that makes it so much more meaningful than having to do some research and find other people's examples and, you know, use them, and other people's case studies. Use yourself. And I think by the sounds from what Kevin says, guess what I'm going to be doing in December and January?
Yep, definitely. And we're going to have stuff that'll be good stories with our online course challenge as well. So we'll have to think about how we can do stuff on that. But otherwise, I think we're all set for the moment. And just remember, grab the challenge kit, that ready to go challenge today. All right. Because otherwise you've got to take that lead magnet and do it all yourself and convert it to emails and create worksheets and all that stuff. And why not just have it done for you? Right. You know, why create it yourself? So drop your questions. And Sarah, thank you. And thank you for loaning your husband to us today. Kevin was great. It was really, really helpful. All right. I'll sign off. Take care, everyone.